a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
Sup, internet? Raggedy Adams here. And for once, I'm shooting in the daytime. I know, right? Natural light, it's weird. Guess what I got in the post today that I've been waiting for over a year? Anno Dracula! Johnny Alucard! Oh my god. I swear to god, I pre-ordered this last December. It came out in stores a week or two ago. I only got this morning. Oh, what I went through for you, baby. Seriously, I'm so chuffed to have finally gotten hold of this. For those of you who have no idea why I'm getting so excited, this is the latest book in the Anno Dracula series by Kim Newman. It's called Johnny Alucard, and it's recently came out from Titan Books. I've been looking forward to it for well over a year. It's been a long time coming, and basically, since I've only got it today, I can't really review it for you, but I did want to give you a brief little primer on Kim Newman himself and the rest of the Anno Dracula books, because I highly recommend them to anyone who really likes good vampire books, or just good books in general. So first off, for those of you who are wondering, who is Kim Newman? Kim Newman is a writer and journalist who I've been a fan of pretty much since I was about 11. That sounds really weird, but it's actually true. The first thing I ever read by Kim Newman was a column that he used to write in a magazine that my parents got free with their cable subscription. And the first one I ever read was one that he did on John Carpenter. Kim Newman introduced me to John Carpenter. And even though it was a few years before I eventually got around to watching any of John Carpenter's films, I always remembered that connection. And it wasn't just that one magazine that he writes for. He writes for Sight and Sound, he writes for Empire, where he has his own column basically writing about straight-to-DVD horror movies. He's appeared on TV, he's been on The Culture Show and stuff like that. He's basically one of the most authoritative critics and historians of horror films and literature in the world. If anyone wants to cite like a current writer on the horror genre, 5 times out of every 10 it will be Kim Newman. So he's done a lot of non-fiction books, but he also writes regular fiction as well. And there's 2 main series of books that he writes. The first one, as I mentioned before, is Anno Dracula, and the second one is The Diogenes Club. He does other stuff that kind of floats around in between, but I'm going to stick to the main stuff here. Now, one of the things you'll notice immediately when you read a Kim Newman book, in either the Anno Dracula series or the Diogenes Club series, is that whilst they do have protagonists that generally speaking are original characters, he works in the sort of the crossover fiction genre, where he takes lots of different characters from lots of different books and films and TV shows and kind of mixes them all together and has them all populate the different universes that he writes in. So for instance, Anno Dracula, as the title suggests, mainly focuses on vampires, so you get a lot of different vampires from all different walks of fiction. You get characters like the original Dracula and Lord Ruthven, who technically predates Dracula, but you also get characters like Dr. Jekyll and Bill Sikes and Professor Moriarty appearing. And whilst it's not the same version of it that appears in his Diogenes Club novels, the Diogenes Club and Mycroft Holmes do appear in Anno Dracula as well. So the basic premise of the Anno Dracula series is that, unlike the original Dracula, where Jonathan Harker and Abraham Van Helsing and their friends managed to find Dracula and kill him, the original book takes as its inspiration the idea of what if Dracula won? What if he survived the events of the original, married Queen Victoria, and basically took over the British Empire? So all the vampires from all over Europe and pretty much the world start coming out of the woodwork society is turned almost completely on its head, and turning it into a vampire becomes sort of a social obligation, almost, to a lot of people. It also incorporates real-life people and real-life events. The main mystery in the first book is the unravelling events of the Whitechapel murders and Jack the Ripper, who in this universe has been killing vampire prostitutes with a silver scalpel. So that's book one, and it's set in Victorian London. Book two, which is called The Bloody Red Baron, as the rather lovely jacket illustration would indicate, is set in World War One. One of the things that is really good about the original Anno Dracula is it figures out how Victorian society would have changed and adapted in order to accommodate vampirism. It basically becomes a bit of a class struggle. The wealthy elite are able to acclimatise to it a lot better and have much better opportunities open to them, whilst the poor continue to be fed on, and when a lot of them become vampires, they kind of come back a bit wrong. Well, what the Bloody Red Baron does is it takes the idea of what would World War One be like if it was fought with warm-blooded people and vampires on both sides. So at this point, without wanting to spoil anything, Dracula has aligned himself with Germany. So on the one hand, you've got British flying aces, most of whom are people who are vampires because, you know, it affords them a natural advantage, versus the Germans, who are being experimented on in very kind of Frankenstein-esque ways to create an elite flying corps of undead super soldier flying aces. The third one, Dracula Cha-Cha-Cha, is set in the 1950s, and it's very much inspired by Ian Fleming and the James Bond novels. But it also features a very good backup novella in it called Aquarius, which is set during the 1960s, and takes a lot of its inspiration from things like Blow Up and Hammer Horror. One of the other things I do really like about Bloody Red Baron is that it does feature a novella called Vampire Romance, in which there is a character who is obsessed with vampires, in which she describes a lot of the, shall we say, dark fantasy romance writers that are prevalent in the day. And that brings us right up to Johnny Alucard, which is kind of a combination of lots of short stories that have previously been released with some additional new material that has previously been unreleased. But one of the things I really love, and you get the benefit of it really with this, because this is like a hardcover. The other ones I've shown you previously are all reissues, but they've all been brought out again in these lovely glossy red, white and black and kind of sepia book covers, and they're all really gorgeous. But I think my favourite so far has got to be Johnny Alucard. There's something about it that just, it makes me smile, you know? It just makes me happy. Other books that Kim Newman has written, such as in the Diogenes Club series, I only have one example that I actually own. It's his most recent one. It's called Mysteries of the Diogenes Club, and that's published by Monkey Brain. And it features a lot of the characters that appear in Anno Dracula, but in a separate universe. But it still jumps back and forth throughout pretty much the entirety of the 20th century, covering all sorts of weird and different and exotic mystery. And finally, the only other book that I have of his is this one, Professor Moriarty, The Hound of the d'Urbervilles. It's not in a particular continuity with either Anno Dracula or his other Diogenes Club books. What it essentially is a series of stories from the point of view of Professor Moriarty and his assistant, Colonel Sebastian Moran, who are sort of the evil counterparts of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson. And one of the things that I really love about this is the fact that It kind of takes stories that exist in the Sherlock Holmes canon and kind of does them differently and in weird ways. For instance, there's a story in here called The Red Planet League, which basically revolves around Professor Moriarty, who also happens to be an astronomer, playing this really massive and mean-spirited prank on someone that disagreed with a paper that he wrote. And he basically convinces this guy that Earth is being invaded by Martians, just out of spite. And it goes into incredible detail as to how the plot is put together and how it's executed. And there's also like a hint that H.G. Wells was inspired by that event to write his own novel. So that's Kim Newman in a nutshell. If you haven't read any of these books, I highly recommend any single one of them. They're all really, really good. I was originally supposed to be posting another video, but that's going to take a little longer than planned. So if you want to get your updates for when that actually does come out, please remember to like, share, and subscribe these videos, and to click the little cogwheel next to the subscribe thing if you want to get emailed updates when my videos come out. I finally got hold of my copy of Brain Boy, so hopefully that's going to be a review for next week. And hopefully by the time this is uploaded, my reviews on Fool's Comic Column for this week will be uploaded, and I'll leave a link in the doobly-doo for those. In the meantime, Raggedy Adams out.